the idea that why worry about our mortality, the unknown of death, when we don't necessarily worry about the unknown void before birth, and that life, sort of the metabolic continuation of the physiological, is this evolution from, or upwelling of, or momentary concrescence around this void. It's in the Stoic philosophers. It's in Bede, where the Venerable Bede talks about Venerable Bede talks about a swallow flying through from the dark of night through a warm mead hall and out the other end. Was even in some Martin Amis, one of the memoirs, the first one, Experience, where he talks about Kingsley Amis, his father, who worked all the time. And Kingsley apparently said, we come from idleness and we go to idleness, so during the course of our life, don't be idle. I'm paraphrasing, and I can't remember where exactly I read that, but I thought I would pull from my own book here a set of essays on mortality and the human imagination. I'll put a link to the Amazon printing, and you can get a copy if you want, but I thought I would read through something I wrote at the end of the introduction to this set of essays, where I start to touch on that process. So I'll read this and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. So here we go. It's the last paragraph of the introduction. There's maybe 20 essays in here. The moment in front of us right now is what the itness is. Read that again. The moment in front of us right now is what the itness is. But what if it, that moment, the final bit, what if this has already happened, and now the sentence has to be gerrymandered? Like so, we arrange the text, tense, and participles into a poem to reflect the passing meaning. The moment in front of it right now is what the usness is. The front in it of right now, what is usness, the moment is. The it in right now of what usness is, moment the front is. The right now in what of usness, moment is, front the it is. The what in usness of moment, front is it, the right now is. The usness in moment of front, it is right now, the what is. The moment in front of us right now is what the itness is. But what if this is all reflections and resonance? What if that's it, the thing of this, and it is behind us? Let's say this itness is the ontos. Heidegger also says, he says a lot of things, that the question of being is nothing other than the radicalization of an essential tendency of being which belongs to Dasein itself, the pre-ontological understanding of being. Although it is more glamorous than my sentence, the response should be similar, which is to say that the itness is the telos. Is the eschaton an algorithm pointed towards an omega point? A singularity? What are we doing with all this time and all the tools at our disposal other than to examine the extended death spiral traversed by our spaceship body falling in a black hole? I read less Heidegger now than I did when I was writing that book, which was maybe 10 years ago. But the ideas and the questions that it's a bit purplish, the prose, right? But it's the introduction. Those ideas are then sifted through the rest of the essays. But what if this is our experience? If we were falling in a black hole, I don't know that we'd necessarily know that we were in a black hole. Even after our body had been physically obliterated by the forces of the black hole, I don't know that we would know that. But this could be what it feels like to be on the event horizon of a black hole. The black hole of the void before birth, the black hole of the void after death. But there's nothing in any of that that suggests that this window of experience is uniquely apportioned meaning. Before we were born, the process of birth would have felt incomparable, inexplicable, intolerable to our consciousness before birth. And then we move into this beautiful, weird, metabolic construct. The concept of metabolism is really important and importantly weird, isn't it? It's like this force that takes food and converts it into a form of energy that then these material atoms and structures sustain themselves together in a way that is unique, but at the end of which reverts back to the original elements. We have this upsurge of connection supported by metabolism, and that energy sustains and then ceases. And the stuff that we're made of, the stardust, right, returns back. I don't know if the void after birth, the void before birth and the void after death are the same void. I suppose there's no reason why they should or shouldn't be. But what if we think of our material life here as being held together through some concept of metabolism, for some reason that isn't entirely clear, but with zero anxiety about what happens either side of that. The itness of the usness of the whenness that I'm talking about there. What is different from this moment than the moment that we'll identify as our last, as my last? It is a moment that emerges, that sustains itself for a flitting moment, sustains itself for a flitting moment, and then evaporates into the next moment with nothing obviously the same, necessarily the same. It may be obviously the same, but it's not necessarily the same. There's nothing to fall onto, there's nothing to land onto. So then think about the breath. As we sit on the cushion, we observe the breath. The breath approaches. The breath is the signal of metabolism. And as you sit, breath is not conscious. It's not deliberate. It extends back into the pre-birth void. Yeah? And it projects out into the post-death void. So I struggle with some of the realizations of selflessness. But the idea of the breath as emerging from something and then dissipating into something is very, very clear. What is that something? You could make a case that it's the same substrate from which we were born and to which we will return. So maybe it isn't sequential. Maybe it is. Maybe it is a temporary manifestation from a continuous void. Don't interpret void to mean nothingness. The void is deep and rich. It is all creative. It is the voice of God, and we all speak through it. We all come from it. The breath. We wake from sleep. I think I might stop it there. Check out the book. Let me know if you have any questions. I think I'm going to dig back into this a bit more. I'm not necessarily to update it, but just to riff on it a little bit. For example, one of my favorite essays in here is about the word quiddity. And I love the word quiddity, and it's a word that has changed meaning. And so in the essay here, I track the times that I had come across it. But Martin Amis uses the word quiddity many, many times. So does Nabokov. And I foolishly have come across the word in the last couple of months and not marked it down. So I think I might have to revisit some of the reading recently and update the essay on quiddity. My dogs, they're my constant companions. Someone just came in the front door. So there you go. Keep your wits about you. Drop a comment, drop an email.